So we're building bridges.
We are definitely building bridges and making a difference.
Right. I'm happy to introduce to you the new director of Building the Bridge Ministries for the United Pentecostal Church International. It's Brother Micheal Mitchell. He's the pastor of New Life Tabernacle in Brooklyn, New York City, and we're very glad to have him on the team. Some of you may not be familiar with Building the Bridge, but we started many years ago as an attempt to reach out into the African American community and the Black community, to involve African Americans in the life of the church and to be more effective in evangelizing African Americans. And God has blessed us over the years. We've made significant progress. Of course, we still need to make more progress. But I'm happy to say that we have many ethnicities and nationalities, including Black and African Americans, in all levels of leadership in our church, our headquarters, Urshan College, Urshan Graduate School, various district offices. And so we have built a lot of bridges. And so now we're shifting our focus, not eliminating the focus, but holding on to our historic mission, but reaching out into urban ministries. Because what we found is that issues that are particular concern in evangelizing the Black community are really the concern of all Americans, because as you know, African Americans are concentrated in the cities disproportionately, but cities are growing. And so all Americans are moving to the cities, and various ethnicities, minorities or immigrants are moving to the cities.
I would say that one of the most important things that Building the Bridge has done is to bring awareness to the entire church that African Americans, Caribbean Americans, and people of all races are important to the development and future of the United Pentecostal Church and beyond.
So we hope that the experience we've learned in reaching cross-racially with Building the Bridge will now translate into many races, many cultures. We do have a ministry called Multicultural Ministry, so we don't shift gears to focus on other minorities particularly. But I would say we have a twofold focus. We still are very focused on engaging African Americans and Blacks into the life of the church at every level, including leadership. But we have an additional focus of teaching the whole church how to be more effective in urban evangelism, cross-cultural, cross-racial ministry. And I think urban ministry is particularly important for several reasons. First of all, that's where most of the growth is. So that's increasingly where you find people. Also, what you find is people who have immigrated from various nations or even moved from rural areas or small towns to the big city, and they become dislocated from their heritage or their family. So if they're in a rural area or a small to mid-sized town, they may have a network, they may have an existing church, they may have family and friends, they know everybody, they know the school principal, they know the banker. But when they move to the big city, they don't have those same connections, and they can be lost spiritually and in every other way. So the needs seem to be more at the surface. I mean, humans are humans, and regardless of the race or the location, sin is sin. So rural areas face challenges, and we want to minister in rural areas just as much. But I think there is a difference in the urban area because people are dislocated from the traditional networks. So the needs are more at the surface. Poverty, drugs, sexual immorality, broken homes, absent fathers. And while that can happen anywhere with any race and any location, it's particularly pronounced in the large urban areas.
The question of programs is not as important as connecting the community to your church. And if the community sees that the church cares, the community will embrace the church and begin to say, that is not just a religious group of people that have come into our community, building buildings and having worship service, but these are people that we call Christians. They have the Spirit of Christ, and they're doing exactly what Jesus did by gathering the multitude together and fed them. And after he fed them, he met their needs. And so Appreciation Sunday was designed or created so that churches could now reach into their communities and begin to honor those that have served their community well. We were trying to reach people of all race, all culture. And so when we decided to do Appreciation Sunday, for an example, educators, we reached out to our church family and then to our superintendents of schools, and they recommended individuals that could be honored. And as a result of that, we reached African Americans, Caribbean Americans, Caucasians, Chinese, Asians.
And I would say you've done a great job. Appreciation Sunday actually started in your church, but it was adopted by Building the Bridge Ministries, and hundreds of our churches have used it effectively. You mentioned Education Sunday. Another thing we did was for law enforcement officers. And several years ago, the past few years, we've had a lot of controversy in some of our urban areas, major cities, and there have been racial tensions as a result. Our job is not to go in each situation and try to decide who's right and who's wrong. Right. We know their injustices, we know their problems, but we want to step in as the church. Right. And certainly when there's a troubled situation, we want to try to bring truth and justice and the love of God to bear. But we do recognize, people of all races recognize, that the overwhelming number of our law enforcement officers are doing a good job and sacrificing, in many cases, taking risks for all of us. So instead of just focusing on a problem, let's have an opportunity to bring thousands of law enforcement officers into the church, maybe for the first time, to feel the presence of the Lord, to hear an apostolic message.
I think when Appreciation Sunday began to honor law enforcement, it was merging the community and the church to say there are individuals that are doing a good job.
Yes.
And as such, when the church began to honor these police officers, one of the things that they noted was it's been a long time since appreciation was shown to those of us that are risking our lives to secure communities and families and to safeguard those that are indeed law-abiding citizens. Take, for instance, the African American community. In that community, there are various needs, such as after-school program. You are now assisting the child. The parent is seeing the care and the concern that you have for that child. Then the parents now say, I want to embrace that church that has embraced my family. Every church, every pastor has to carefully study his or her community and decide which program works. Take, for instance, the pantry program. We had up to 160 families that came in on Tuesday night. We taught them a Bible study. They were a part of our evangelistic service. And after the service, we gave every family a bag or two, or sometimes three, groceries. That particular program kept them coming back to the point where they got Bible studies. Some got the Holy Ghost, some got baptized, and some were just faithful attendees of the church. We are in need of sponsors. I'm happy to announce that we've had an increase in sponsorship. Our target goal for 2018 is 250 sponsors at $35 for the month, and we certainly can utilize those funds and enhance the assistance to churches that are struggling to utilize the ministries that we have to offer. Take, for instance, if a church does an Appreciation Sunday and they're unable to take care of the financial cost of the after-service fellowship, Building the Bridge will write them a check for $500 and assist them in that endeavor.
But if you go to the website, you could sign up to become a monthly partner or give a one-time donation. And you can also get resources that are free. So you might ask, well, what do you do with the money? Well, in addition to the annual conference, we have a lot of other means of helping people. And one of those means is generating the resources for things like Appreciation Sunday that all churches can use free of charge. They can download the relevant material from their website, that has all the information that takes them step by step of how to implement Appreciation Sunday in their local church.
Instead of trying to focus on the racial issues that surround the church, and in particular our ministry, as to the efforts that we're making to bring about integration. Integration must not be our primary goal. It is important, but if we evangelize the church, the world, the church will be integrated by our evangelistic efforts. If we reach the community, and the community is diverse people will come to the church. However, my focus as to where I think Building the Bridge should go will not just be on a racial situation.
Yes.
It will be more about how do we reach our community. And I think integration over time will take place, because as we bring the community to the church will now begin to reflect the community.
So Building the Bridge comes alongside local pastors and churches to help them be more effective in reaching their entire community.
Yes.
When they do that, they'll reach a diverse community.
Right.
The church will become more diverse, and Building the Bridge will fulfill its mission.
Yes. And I believe that's where we're going, and I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to get there.
Thank you.
Thank you.